The obsidian chamber hummed with a low thrum of suppressed energy, its vast, vaulted ceiling a tapestry of swirling nebulae projected from advanced sensor arrays. Around the immense, circular table crafted from a single, flawless geode, the eldest of the Krill Imperium sat in silent deliberation. The air, thick with the scent of exotic, pressure-filtered pheromones, crackled with barely contained anxiety. The holographic representation of a single, starkly geometric vessel hung suspended in the chamber's center, its unadorned hull a profound affront to the Krill's deeply ingrained aesthetic sensibilities. It was this ship, this uninvited guest, that had brought the Krill Imperium to the precipice of an unprecedented crisis. Grand Prolocutor Xyler, his chitinous carapace gleaming under the chamber's luminescence, broke the tense silence. For cycles, we have debated the implications of this anomaly. Every probe, every sensor sweep, every calculated projection returns the same unsettling result. We do not understand them. His multifaceted eyes, usually radiating an aura of unwavering confidence, flickered with a hint of unease. Their technology is unorthodox. Their energy signatures unpredictable. Their motivations utterly opaque. We have encountered civilizations that embraced conquest, those that sought only knowledge, and those consumed by relentless expansion. But these humans, they defy categorization. The eldest listened, their antennae twitching almost imperceptibly. The Krill, a species whose history stretched back millennia, had prided themselves on their mastery of galactic affairs, their intricate web of alliances and treaties, their unparalleled ability to predict and manipulate the ebb and flow of intergalactic power. But the arrival of humanity had shattered their carefully constructed reality, leaving them adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The archives speak of species with similar aggression, offered Strategos Vorlag, his voice a deep, resonant baritone that echoed through the chamber. Primitive, expansionist, driven by insatiable hunger for resources. Perhaps this is merely a more advanced iteration of that archetype. He paused, his gaze fixed on the holographic vessel. We must prepare for the possibility of conflict, mobilize the fleets, fortify our borders, and demonstrate the strength of the Krill Imperium. Show them that we will not be intimidated. Xyler inclined his head in acknowledgement. A prudent course of action, Strategos, but prudence must be tempered with caution. Our intelligence suggests that their capacity for destruction is significant, and unlike the primitive species of old, they possess a disturbing level of tactical sophistication. He gestured towards a series of complex data streams projecting from the table's surface. Their initial approach to this system was deliberate. A series of precise maneuvers, designed to avoid detection and minimize energy expenditure. They were observing us long before we detected their presence. The implications of Xyler's words hung heavy in the air. The Krill, with their advanced sensor networks and sophisticated surveillance technology, had been outmaneuvered, observed without their knowledge. It was a humiliation that stung deeply, a blow to their collective pride. Perhaps, a voice interjected, soft yet firm, we are approaching this from the wrong perspective. The eldest turned towards the speaker, Archivist Lyra, a scholar renowned for her insightful analysis and unorthodox thinking. We are attempting to understand them through the lens of our own experiences, our own biases. We assume that their motivations must align with those of other species we have encountered. But what if they do not? Lyra rose to her feet, her slender form casting a long shadow across the chamber. Consider this. They have not launched a single attack. They have not transmitted a single hostile signal. They have simply observed. Is it not possible that their intentions are not malicious but simply exploratory? Vorlag scoffed. Exploration with a warship, that defies all logic. Does it? Lyra countered. Or does it simply defy our logic? Perhaps their definition of exploration is different from ours. Perhaps they value security above all else. Perhaps they believe that a show of force is the best way to prevent conflict. Xyler considered Lyra's words, his multifaceted eyes narrowing in thought. He had always respected her intellectual prowess, her ability to see beyond the obvious. But the idea that humanity's intentions might be benign, that their presence might not represent an imminent threat, was a radical departure from the prevailing sentiment. We must proceed with caution regardless, Xyler declared, his voice regaining its authoritative tone. Prepare a diplomatic envoy, establish communication, attempt to ascertain their intentions, but remain vigilant. We cannot afford to underestimate them. He looked around the chamber, his gaze meeting the eyes of each of the eldest. The fate of the Krill Imperium may depend on it. The obsidian chamber fell silent once more, the only sound the low hum of the energy conduits and the distant echoes of their anxieties. The image of the Terran warship continued to hang in the center of the room, a silent, enigmatic presence that symbolized the profound uncertainty that had gripped the Krill Imperium. They knew so little about these humans, these newcomers to the galactic stage. But one thing was clear: their arrival had changed everything. On board the UNSC Aegis, Captain Eva Rostova stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic display that mirrored the view outside. The sprawling, intricate infrastructure of a Krill orbital station. The station, a testament to a civilization far older and more advanced than her own, was a breathtaking sight. But Rostova's expression remained impassive, her attention focused on the task at hand. "Report," she said, her voice calm and professional. "All systems nominal, Captain," replied Lieutenant Commander Jayan, her operations officer. "Krill vessels maintaining a respectful distance. No hostile actions detected." "Communications." "They're still broadcasting that intricate series of tones and modulated frequencies, Captain. It's definitely a hailing signal, but our translation algorithms are making zero progress. It's unlike anything we've encountered." Rostova nodded slowly. The Krill's attempts at communication were peculiar. Their technology was clearly advanced, but their methods of interaction seemed almost alien. It was as if they were trying to speak a language that humanity had never heard before. "Continue analyzing the signal," she ordered, "and prepare a response. A standard human greeting, keep it simple, direct, and unambiguous." Jayan hesitated. "Captain, are you sure that's wise? We still don't know their intentions. A direct approach might be interpreted as aggressive." "We can't afford to play games, Lieutenant Commander," Rostova replied, her voice firm. "We came here to establish contact, and that's what we're going to do. We'll show them that we're not afraid, that we're willing to engage in open and honest communication." Rostova turned to her first officer, Commander Chen. "Commander, I want a full report on the Krill, their technology, their culture, their history, everything we can find." "Already on it, Captain," Chen replied. "Our analysts are working overtime, but I have to warn you, the initial findings are unsettling. The Krill Imperium is vast, ancient, and incredibly complex. Their society is built on a rigid hierarchy, and their military power is immense." Rostova nodded. She had expected as much. Humanity was a relative newcomer to the galactic stage, a young and inexperienced species venturing into the unknown. But Rostova refused to be intimidated. She knew that humanity possessed strengths that the Krill could not comprehend: their adaptability, their resilience, and their unwavering belief in the power of human ingenuity. "We didn't come here to conquer or to dominate," she said, her voice filled with conviction. "We came here to explore, to learn, and to build bridges. We'll show the Krill that humanity is a force for good in the galaxy." The Krill diplomatic envoy, a sleek, elegantly crafted vessel, approached the Aegis with cautious precision. Xyler, the Grand Prolocutor, observed the Terran warship through the viewscreen, his multifaceted eyes studying its every detail. Its unadorned hull, its stark geometric lines, its sheer lack of ornamentation. It was all so alien. "Proceed with the docking procedure," he ordered, his voice betraying none of the anxiety that gnawed at him. "Maintain a defensive posture. We cannot afford to be caught off guard." The envoy glided smoothly towards the Aegis, its docking clamps engaging with a soft hiss. Xyler took a deep breath, preparing himself for the encounter. He had spent cycles studying humanity, poring over every scrap of information that the Krill intelligence agencies had managed to gather. But nothing could have prepared him for the reality of meeting them face to face. As the airlock cycled open, Xyler stepped through, followed by his delegation of diplomats, scientists, and security personnel. He found himself in a sterile, brightly lit corridor, its walls lined with unfamiliar technology. At the far end of the corridor, a figure stood waiting, a human. The human was tall and slender, clad in a simple, dark uniform. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her face was devoid of any ornamentation. But it was her eyes that struck Xyler the most. They were clear, intelligent, and radiated an unwavering sense of calm. "Welcome to the UNSC Aegis," the human said, her voice clear and steady. "I am Captain Eva Rostova. It is an honor to meet you, Grand Prolocutor Xyler." Xyler inclined his head in acknowledgement. "The honor is ours, Captain Rostova. We have been anticipating your arrival." Rostova smiled, a brief, almost imperceptible gesture. I trust our arrival has not been disruptive. On the contrary, Zyler replied, it has been enlightening. Rostova led Zyler and his delegation through the Aegis, explaining the ship's functions and capabilities with a calm, professional demeanor. Zyler was impressed by her knowledge and her attention to detail, but he was also struck by her lack of emotion. She seemed almost detached, as if she were observing the situation from a great distance. As they reached the bridge, Rostova gestured towards the main view screen. This is the command center of the Aegis, she said. From here, we monitor all ship systems and coordinate all operations. Zyler observed the bridge crew, their faces illuminated by the glow of the holographic displays. They were all focused on their tasks, their movements precise and efficient. There was no sense of panic or urgency, despite the fact that they were facing a potentially hostile alien civilization. You seem remarkably calm, Captain, Zyler observed. Rostova turned to face him, her eyes unwavering. We are prepared for any eventuality, Grand Prolocutor. We have trained for this moment for many years. We are confident in our abilities, and we are committed to our mission. Zyler was taken aback by her confidence. It was not arrogance, but rather a quiet, unwavering belief in her own capabilities. It was a trait that he found both intriguing and unsettling. And what precisely is your mission, Captain? He asked. Rostova paused for a moment, as if considering her words carefully. Our mission, she said, is to explore, to learn, and to build bridges between civilizations. We believe that humanity has much to offer the galaxy and that we can learn much from others. We came here to establish a peaceful and mutually beneficial relationship with the Krill Imperium. Zyler studied Rostova's face, searching for any sign of deceit, but he found nothing. Her expression was open and honest, her eyes radiating sincerity. He realized with a growing sense of unease that he had underestimated humanity. They were not the primitive, expansionist species that he had initially assumed. They were something far more complex, far more dangerous. The Krill Council chamber buzzed with anticipation. The holographic representation of Captain Rostova hung in the center of the room, her image clear and sharp. Zyler stood before the council, recounting his meeting with the human captain. She spoke of peace, of cooperation, of mutual benefit, he said. But beneath her words I sensed something else. A strength, a resolve, a determination that is unlike anything I have ever encountered. Strategos Vorlag scoffed. Propaganda, Zyler. They are trying to lull us into a false sense of security. They are waiting for the opportune moment to strike. I do not believe so, Strategos, Zyler replied. I believe that Rostova is sincere, but I also believe that she is not telling us everything. What do you mean? Asked Archivist Lyra. I believe that humanity is hiding something, Zyler said. Something that they do not want us to know. The council members exchanged uneasy glances. The Krill had always prided themselves on their ability to uncover secrets, to unravel the mysteries of the galaxy. But humanity had proven to be an enigma, a puzzle that they could not solve. We must probe deeper, Zyler declared. We must uncover their secrets. We must understand what they are hiding. The council members nodded in agreement. They knew that the fate of the Krill Imperium might depend on it. On board the Aegis, Rostova sat in her quarters, reviewing the data streams that flowed across her console. The Krill were watching them, analyzing them, probing them. She knew that they were trying to uncover humanity's secrets, but she was determined to protect them. Report, she said to Jayan, who stood beside her. The Krill are still attempting to decipher our communications protocols, Captain, Jayan replied. They are also focusing on our energy signatures and our propulsion systems. Let them, Rostova said. We have nothing to hide that they can understand. Rostova smiled grimly. Humanity had secrets that were far beyond the Krill's comprehension. Secrets that were buried deep within their history, within their culture, within their very DNA. Secrets that would change the galaxy forever. Continue to monitor their activities, she ordered, and be ready for anything. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The Krill and the humans continued to interact, exchanging information and engaging in diplomatic negotiations. But beneath the surface of cooperation, a tense game of cat and mouse was being played. The Krill were trying to uncover humanity's secrets, and humanity was trying to protect them. One day, Rostova received a message from Zyler. He requested a private meeting, away from the prying eyes of their respective crews. Rostova agreed, sensing that something significant was about to happen. They met in a neutral location, a small, uninhabited moon on the outskirts of the Krill system. Rostova arrived in a shuttle, accompanied by a small security detail. Xyler was waiting for her, standing alone on the desolate surface. "Captain Rostova," he said, his voice formal, "thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Grand Prolocutor Xyler," Rostova replied, "what is it that you wish to discuss?" Xyler hesitated for a moment, as if struggling to find the right words. "I have learned much about humanity in recent months, Captain," he said. "I have studied your history, your culture, your technology, and I have come to a disturbing conclusion." "What is that?" Rostova asked, her voice calm. "I believe that humanity is not what it seems," Xyler said. "I believe that you are hiding something, something that could threaten the entire galaxy." Rostova remained silent, her expression unreadable. "I know that you are aware of the precursors," Xyler continued. "The ancient race that seeded life throughout the galaxy, the race that possessed technology beyond our wildest dreams, the race that vanished without a trace." Rostova's eyes flickered, betraying her surprise. "You know about the precursors?" she asked. "We have legends, myths, whispers of their existence," Xyler replied. "But we thought they were just stories until you arrived." Xyler paused, his gaze fixed on Rostova's face. "I believe that humanity is descended from the precursors," he said. "I believe that you possess their knowledge, their technology, their power, and I believe that you are hiding it from us." Rostova took a deep breath. The moment of truth had arrived. "You are partially correct, Grand Prolocutor," she said. "Humanity is indeed connected to the precursors, but our relationship is not what you think." Rostova revealed the truth. Humanity was not descended from the precursors, but rather were their inheritors. Millennia ago, the precursors, facing a cataclysmic threat, had chosen humanity to carry on their legacy. They had left behind a network of hidden caches containing their knowledge, their technology, and their ultimate weapon, the means to defend the galaxy from the darkness that was coming. Xyler listened in stunned silence as Rostova explained the nature of the precursor's legacy. The caches were scattered throughout the galaxy, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those who were worthy. Humanity had spent centuries searching for these caches, unlocking their secrets, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation. "And what is this threat that the precursors feared?" Xyler asked, his voice barely a whisper. "The Voidborn," Rostova replied. "A cosmic entity that consumes entire galaxies, a force of pure destruction that knows no mercy." Xyler's multifaceted eyes widened in horror. He had heard whispers of such a being, ancient tales of a cosmic horror that lurked in the void between galaxies, but he had dismissed them as mere superstition. Now, he realized that they were all too real. "The precursors created us in a way," Rostova continued, "to be the shield against the Voidborn. They knew that one day the darkness would return, and they entrusted us with the power to stop it." Xyler understood now. Humanity's secrecy, their caution, their unwavering determination, it all made sense. They were not trying to conquer the galaxy, they were trying to save it. "What do you need from us?" Xyler asked, his voice filled with a newfound respect. "We need your help," Rostova replied. "The Voidborn are coming. We must unite all the civilizations of the galaxy to stand against them." The Krill Council chamber was filled with a sense of awe and dread. The holographic representation of the Voidborn, a swirling vortex of darkness and destruction, hung in the center of the room. Xyler stood before the council, recounting Rostova's revelation. "The threat is real," he declared. "The Voidborn are coming. We must prepare for war." The council members nodded in agreement. The petty squabbles and political machinations that had once consumed their attention now seemed insignificant in the face of this cosmic threat. The survival of the galaxy depended on their unity. "We must contact the other civilizations," Lyra said. "We must warn them of the danger." "And we must offer them our assistance," Vorlag added. "We must show them that the Krill Imperium stands ready to defend the galaxy." The council members turned to Xyler, their faces filled with hope. "What do we do?" they asked. Xyler took a deep breath. The fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders. "We unite," he said. "We stand together, we fight." Humanity and the Krill Imperium formed an alliance, reaching out to other civilizations across the galaxy, warning them of the impending threat. Some were skeptical, some were fearful, but many were willing to join the fight. An armada of unprecedented scale was assembled, a coalition of diverse species united by a common purpose, to defend the galaxy from the Voidborn. The Aegis became the flagship of the United Fleet, with Captain Rostova as its commander. She stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the vast expanse of space before her. The Voidborn were coming, and she knew that the battle would be long and arduous. But she was not afraid. She had the support of the galaxy, and she had the legacy of the precursors on her side. "Prepare for battle," she ordered, her voice filled with determination. "We will not let the Voidborn consume our galaxy. We will fight them to the very end." The fleet surged forward, a beacon of hope against the encroaching darkness. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Voidborn were relentless, their attacks overwhelming. But the United Fleet stood firm, using every weapon, every strategy, every ounce of their courage to hold the line. Rostova led the charge, the Aegis cutting through the Voidborn ranks like a knife through butter. She was a force to be reckoned with, her tactical brilliance and unwavering resolve inspiring her crew and her allies. But the Voidborn were too numerous, too powerful. One by one, ships fell, consumed by the darkness. The United Fleet was beginning to falter. Rostova knew that they were running out of time. She had to do something drastic. She had to use the Precursor's ultimate weapon. She gathered her senior officers on the bridge. "We have reached the point of no return," she said. "We must activate the Precursor device." Her officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Precursor device was a weapon of unimaginable power, capable of yeri an entire galaxy. Using it was a last resort, a desperate gamble. "Are you sure about this, Captain?" Chen asked. "The risks are enormous." "We have no choice," Rostova replied. "If we don't use it, the Voidborn will consume everything. This is our only hope." Rostova activated the device. A wave of energy surged from the Aegis, spreading outwards like a shockwave. The Voidborn shrieked in agony as the energy tore through them, ripping them apart at the subatomic level. But the device was not selective. It was yeri everything in its path, friend and foe alike. Rostova watched in horror as the United Fleet began to crumble, consumed by the energy of the Precursor device. She had saved the galaxy, but at a terrible cost. The Voidborn were defeated, the galaxy was safe, but the United Fleet was gone. Millions of lives had been lost. Rostova stood on the bridge of the Aegis, surveying the devastation. The galaxy was silent, empty. She had won the war, but she had lost everything. Xyler contacted her, his voice filled with grief. "What have you done, Rostova?" he asked. "You have saved the galaxy, but you have destroyed it." "I had no choice," Rostova replied, her voice weary. "It was the only way." "But at what cost?" Xyler asked. "What is the point of saving the galaxy if there is no one left to enjoy it?" Rostova had no answer. She knew that she had made a terrible mistake. She had trusted the Precursors, but they had led her astray. Their weapon was too powerful, too destructive. It was not a tool for salvation, but rather a tool for annihilation. Rostova realized that humanity had been deceived. The Precursors had not chosen them to be the saviors of the galaxy. They had chosen them to be the destroyers. Centuries passed. The galaxy slowly began to heal. New civilizations arose, rebuilding what had been lost. But the memory of the Voidborn and the Precursor device remained, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the dangers of unchecked power. Humanity retreated into isolation, ashamed of their role in the destruction. They vowed to never again wield the power of the Precursors, to never again threaten the galaxy. One day, a signal was detected, emanating from the far reaches of the galaxy. It was a message, a plea for help. A new threat had emerged, a threat even greater than the Voidborn. The civilizations of the galaxy turned to humanity, begging them to intervene. But humanity refused. They had learned their lesson. They would not risk destroying the galaxy again. But then a young human, a descendant of Captain Rostova, discovered a hidden message within the Precursor archives. It was a warning, a prophecy. The Precursors had foreseen the emergence of this new threat, and they had left behind a solution. The solution was not a weapon, but rather a tool for creation. A device that could harness the power of the universe to build new worlds, to create new life. Humanity realized that they had misunderstood the Precursors. They had not chosen them to be the destroyers. They had chosen them to be the creators. Humanity emerged from their isolation, offering their assistance to the galaxy. They used the precursor device to create new worlds, to seed new life, to restore what had been lost. The galaxy flourished, more vibrant and diverse than ever before. Humanity had finally found its purpose. They were not the saviors of the galaxy, nor were they the destroyers. They were the guardians, the protectors, the creators. And as they looked out at the vast expanse of the universe, they knew that their journey had just begun. The galaxy was full of wonders, full of mysteries, full of possibilities, and humanity was ready to explore them all together. The memory of the first encounter with the Krill, the initial fear and misunderstanding, faded into the background. It became a reminder of the importance of communication, of understanding, and of unity. It was a reminder that even the most different species could find common ground, that even the most daunting challenges could be overcome, and that even the darkest of times could be followed by the brightest of dawns. The legacy of humanity was not one of war or destruction, but rather one of peace, creation, and hope. And as they ventured further into the unknown, they carried that legacy with them, guiding their way and illuminating the path for others to follow. The galaxy was vast and the future was uncertain, but humanity was ready. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together as one.